Okay. Thank you all for coming. We are live. And I have Jesus the Frog here. What do you want to be referred to as? Do you have a preference on that?
And I mean, are you just
I
referring to my
have
real name
Jesus
as
the
my
Frog.
username? Or is
Yeah, do you want your real name or.
honestly, it doesn't really matter to me. You can go by what you want.
Okay, then I shall call you Dennis. Doxed. Uh,
Oh,
so tell me, like, what religion were you originally? Are you still religious or?
I am currently growing up in a Catholic household, but I do not want to be growing up in this Catholic household.
Okay, interesting. So what's it been like growing up in a Catholic household?
Well, when you first are introduced to it, and that's all you really know, you don't really think much of it at the time. But once you start growing older and start learning how to think for yourself, you start realizing, depending on who you are, that you really don't want to be a part of this anymore.
Sure.
And lo and behold, that's what has happened to me. But I don't really have the option to leave.
Sure. So have your parents pretty well like shoved it down your throat, that kind of thing, or they've been pretty relaxed about things, or?
I mean, my mother has been more relaxed about things than my father has, but
Mm,
in like recent weeks, I have been standing up for myself a little bit more, like trying to convince them to trying to convince them to not force me to keep going.
sure. Interesting. So they're kind of forcing you to go to church and stuff then.
Yeah, they have been, but I haven't gone for the past 3 weeks because I've like vehemently fought them about this.
Right. So I don't really know a whole lot about like the Catholic. I mean, I know a lot about Catholicism, but not about the process of of mass or whatever they call it, going to church. What happens there? Like, is it just do they speak in Latin? Is there a certain
Yeah,
time for like confessions? How does that work?
they did used to do it in Latin for many years, but it
Mm.
was, I believe, I don't entirely quote me on this. I believe it was the 1950s when they officially made the switch over to English as well for that. And the whole confession thing is usually separate from the actual mass itself. There may be some individual churches who have it like during mass, but like confession, you can usually just go in a specific day during the week and talk to the priest and confess your sins outside of mass.
Mm.
But yeah, during the actual thing, it's pretty much almost the same as many other churches. Like you go in, you sing a song, then they read you some Bible verses, and then you sing another song. And the priest will read his sermon or homily, as they call it in the Catholic Church, and then you'll get communion, and then like you sing another song, and then you leave.
Interesting. Okay, so they give you communion every single church service.
Yes, yes.
That's fascinating. As far as I remember, the whole bit about the communion and where it came from was Jesus at the end, just like the night before he died. I guess he passed around bread and wine and said, "Keep doing this in remembrance of me." Blah blah blah.
He made the claim saying that this was his body and that this was his blood, and now
Right.
Catholics believe that every single time the priest blesses it, it automatically turns into the form of Jesus's flesh and blood. Like that there's some sort of chemical change and it automatically is Jesus's flesh and blood.
Isn't that fascinating? Like, I mean, we can take that and we can put it under a microscope and test it and see if that's objectively true or not. But people,
Even when I was religious, I thought that was bullshit. It was like,
right? Oh, that's really interesting. Any other stories or anything you want to tell me about it, or anything else you wanted to cover?
I mean, well, this coming like Monday on the fourth, is that a Monday? I don't care. On the 14th, coming up, my father, since I've been talking to him about this multiple times, like really claiming that I want out because this is not good for me mentally. It's not an issue of whether the whole thing is true or not. It's just
Yeah,
not good for me.
yeah, sure.
And he's going to take me to talk to a priest for an undisclosed amount of
Ooh.
time to see if he can fix me and see if he can convert me back to Catholicism.
That does not sound fun. I wonder what that entails. Like, I wonder what's going to be involved in that process.
That's the scariest whole thing about it. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I still have to go there and sit there, and he's just going to grill me, I guess, until they think that I'm going to be converted. I guess I don't know,
Sure.
but
Maybe he'll
most
maybe he'll perform an exorcism on you or something. Who knows?
pretty funny.
Yeah, that would be weird. Well, very interesting. So, a couple more questions I had for you about it, actually. So, confession. They do. Is that something that you can do after the church service, or do people usually do confession like just at random times after they get out of work or whatever?
People usually do confession whenever the priest is open. Like a confession, the way I don't remember this entirely because my family only goes to confession like twice a year, like right before Christmas and right before Easter.
Really?
Um, like um, it's usually like a couple times during the week that the priests are open for it, and sometimes it's right before Mass. But my my current church that I still go to was doing it during Mass for a short amount of time, but that stopped once the guy who what is it administered that to happen during the church got put on administrative leave for accusations of misconduct. So
Right.
uh,
Big surprise, right?
yeah,
That
I mean,
is
I
amazing.
hope it's not true because that guy was actually really funny. But like,
Really? He's an
yeah,
okay guy?
he's not. I don't know too much about him personally. I mean, other than this might put a damper on his
Mm.
reputation, but like during his homilies, even outside of the whole like concept of what he was preaching, he was actually really funny during them, even
Right.
just during the church as well.
Well, I don't know.
Uh,
I guess we can all agree that we hope none of it is true. Period. No
yeah,
matter who it is, right? I mean, we don't
well,
want that shit to be true.
no, of course not.
So anyway, that's pretty interesting. And I noticed you said that you said your parents would do confession like twice a year, right?
Yeah, right before Christmas and right before Easter.
I think that's so interesting because if I'm not mistaken, if you die without having confessed your sins, then you just go to hell, right?
There's a blurred line there.
Okay.
Like they try to use purgatory, which is the like state between heaven and hell, and they'll say like if you die with I don't know, I guess X amount of sins, then you can either go to purgatory
Really?
and wait for someone, and if someone keeps praying for you, those sins can be erased, and then you can go into heaven. But for some people, I guess there's no hope. But I don't know where the line is drawn.
Oh wow,
So
man.
yeah,
That is so interesting. I wish I knew more about this. Like, it's the kind of thing that you can learn from research, but you just don't understand fully until you just go there and experience it or talk to somebody. You know what I mean?
someone asked, "What about the anointing of the sick?" The anointing of the sick. It was like, if for anyone who doesn't know, the anointing of the sick is what a priest comes to give you a last rites right before you die, and then they absolve you of all of your sins.
Mm.
Which, yes, that can happen in the eyes of a practicing Catholic. That person would immediately go to heaven since they have no sins to what is it? They have no sins to be judged. So, but that doesn't happen for everyone in the Catholic faith. So it's just
So it's called the anointing of the sick, you said?
yes.
All right. So who does it happen to, I'm wondering? Do you know?
Um, I guess just anyone who requests it. I mean,
Mm, I see.
it's it's a strange process,
Yeah,
but
for sure. That's really interesting. Well, I appreciate you coming on and talking to me. That's pretty crazy.
oh no problem. It was cool to be here.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we'll talk to you next time then.
All right, see ya.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. I mean, there's so much that I mean, I can't say Catholicism was the original faith or the original Christian faith because it wasn't. There was Eastern Orthodox, I believe, that came before Catholicism, and then Catholicism branched off from that. But it still has some really old traditions. Like it's just amazing. So. Okay. Next person I was going to speak with was Lily Doodles. Hey, you there?
Hey.
So
Yep.
we have talked a few times, I believe, right?
Yeah, back when there wasn't a list.
Yeah, I know. Used to be so much easier, but now there are a lot of requests. You actually did a whole bunch of artwork for me, and you were a helper on the Discord and stuff for a while, right?
Yeah, I actually plan on kind of working my way up again.
Okay.
I was gone for about maybe 3 weeks, I
Mm,
think it was. I
right.
don't know why I disappeared. I just kind of did. But yeah, kind of planning on coming back full force,
Okay.
more art and stuff.
Well, that happens. I understand. I mean, nobody's upset over that or anything. So, yeah, we'd be glad to have you back if we can find this, the extra room for you. But anyway, so I was going to ask you, I feel like I've talked to you about this before, but just for those of
Mhm.
you who haven't heard about it, you are a pagan, right? Are you Wiccan?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, well, it's kind of a weird blurred line because I used to call myself a Wiccan because I follow the same sort of magic practices.
Mm,
But I don't believe in a god. I believe in like spirits and stuff, but not a god. And being Wiccan kind of requires you to worship a god, and
yeah,
so I'm just kind of right on the outskirts because pagan is a blanket term that includes Wicca.
right.
So
Interesting. So tell me about it. So you're saying that you believe in spirits, but not necessarily in God, right?
yeah, it's kind of weird how that works. I think I mean, always been curious about spirits, but I think the first
Sure.
time I really believed, I have a friend who says she can see ghosts, or she used to, but you know, who can really tell?
Right.
Anyway, my cat a while ago died. One of my cats.
Mm.
One time, my friend was just staying at my house, and I heard, if you have a cat, you know the distinct sound of a cat jumping onto a couch.
Sure.
It's weird to describe, but I heard that. I turn around, no one there, and I just feel a cat brush up behind me. I
Mm.
turn around, and my friend just says, I think I see something. It was weird, probably a coincidence, but from then on, I just kind of believed.
Okay. That's
Of course,
fascinating.
nothing like that has ever happened to me with a god, so I'm just kind of in that zone where I don't believe in God, but I do believe in like a weird afterlife.
That's fascinating. Okay. So, all right, let me ask you this then.
Hmm.
Um what would prove to you trying to think about how to word this. So you had this experience where you felt like the ghost of your cat may have been there with you, right? Is
Well,
there? Hmm?
yeah, that was kind of just the gateway experience. There
Sure.
have been a few things like that, but that's just the first memory I can think of where I actually found myself believing.
Okay. Is there any way for us to prove that? Like, if there was a test that we could run, what test could we run to see if that were true? Would there be any way to verify that your friend sees ghosts? Do you think?
Well, the thing with my friend, she has her mom said that at a young age she could see ghosts.
Mm,
Once again, not sure if she's just playing along.
sure.
I mean, we were like, that was in like third grade,
Mm,
so
okay.
um,
Long ago.
and then she said she lost that ability as she grew older, and now my friend has stopped talking to me about that kind of stuff. I
Mm,
don't really know if they can be seen per se. I'm still not sure how it's
you're
just you kind of know when it happens. There's not a lot. It's not like you put on some glasses and you can see ghosts, or
sure.
you just sit and listen really carefully.
Would it be fair to
Or
say that it's like a feeling that you get, something like that?
yeah,
Okay.
it's you can get physical feelings like a cat brushing against me.
Sure.
Uh, you could get shadows out of the corner of your eye, which are unreliable at best. But I
Sure.
mean, and then suddenly you just feel like a presence.
Mm.
I wish
You
I
what?
wish there was some way to prove it,
Mm.
because I mean, obviously, I'm not trying to preach and tell everyone
Right.
that it's 100% true,
Of
because
course.
I don't know, but
So
I
let me
really
ask you
don't think.
this then. Do you think that feelings that you get are a reliable way to get to the truth in any other cases? Are there other cases in
I
your
like
life where you may use feelings to get to the truth about a matter?
I feel like it's not necessarily a truth. I feel like
Okay.
I still love science and I'd use that for everything else. But
Sure.
I don't think this is definitely true. I think it's like kind of, a path. It's not like a fact to me, if that makes any sense.
Sure.
It's like just something when it happens, and it's an experience. And you can't prove if you saw something
Mm-hmm.
that couldn't be true, and you wouldn't try to say, well, how can I apply that to something else? How can I use the same logic of me seeing things?
Sure.
It's kind of just, I don't know, I can't think of an analogy, but I wouldn't use that logic anywhere else to.
Okay. I actually, when I was younger, my mom told me that my dad was into like black magic and things like that, and I didn't really buy it, at the time. But then she starts telling me about how he saw Satan's face laughing in front of him, and that kind of primed me to be ready to believe in that kind of stuff, to the point where I don't really have a point with this story. I just thought it was interesting. To the point where I was afraid of saying out loud how I was afraid of dying, like the worst way I thought it would be to die, because I thought that if Satan heard me say it, then he would make sure it happened in Armageddon, that kind of thing. That's how real it was to me at the time. But as I got a little bit older and time passed, I continued to have like dreams about demons messing with me and scaring me and stuff like that. And at some point, I just realized that like none of it was true, really, or at the very least, I didn't feel like it was true, and there was no evidence for it. And those dreams about demons just stopped. Like I no longer feared that stuff anymore. I just thought that was kind of interesting. So
Yeah, no, that I can relate a lot to that.
yeah,
I feel like there's a part of me that kind of quote unquote knows that it's in my head, but another part of me that feels just as strong that it's definitely true.
sure.
And I just say, what the heck? Why fight the feeling? It makes me feel nice to do this, and I'm not hurting anyone, I'm not hurting myself.
Sure, yeah. I have no issue with people believing that stuff at all, as long as it isn't hurting anybody or themselves. I'm totally on board, and I support your right to believe it to the death. So, anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you coming on. I'm gonna move on to somebody else, okay?
No problem.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. Before I move on to somebody else, I was gonna mention, the very last, like I had a history of having like demonic dreams, right? Like where demons would mess with me in my dreams. They're basically the type of nightmare that I had. And eventually, I think I was 23 or 24 when the very last dream I had about demons or anything was like, I was dreaming that I would look in the mirror and like my reflection would just kind of morph into like an evil face or whatever, And then I got to thinking in my dream, I was like, none of this is real. This isn't how the world works. Something else is going on here. And at that moment in my dream, I stopped seeing demonic things and started seeing aliens, like trying to record me and things like that. It switched from demons to aliens. And that is the moment in my life when I truly let go of any fear of demons or, death from harming God or whatever. I think that's the very moment that I gave up on belief in God in general. So, I just thought that was an interesting little story. There was someone else I wanted to talk to, and I'm hoping it's going to be an interesting conversation. But before I get into the conversation, I do just want to mention one thing. Sometimes I do talk to Christians on here, but really this time is for fans more than Christians. So I will talk to Christians about their beliefs and things a little bit, but I'm going to keep it fairly short. So I was going to talk to Dafish, Dafish, but I don't actually see him in here anywhere. So I guess I'll go to the next person in the list, which was Matthew Duggan. Hey, are you there?
Hey.
How's it going?
All right.
So we have talked in DMs a little bit and on the server, but we haven't talked in on the podcast before, have we?
No.
So tell me, what religion were you? Are you still religious, or?
Well, I'm still deist.
You're still theist, you say?
A deist.
Oh, you're
With a
still a
D.
deist.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. So, did you grow up religious, or
Baptist.
what was that? Are you there? Did I lose you?
We appear to have lost him.
Well, it's a shame. I'm not. Did he actually log out of the voice thing?
Yeah, he disconnected.
Okay. I'm not going to tell the guy's life story or anything.
He's back.
But hey, are you there? Tess?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you were
I
saying.
accidentally disconnected.
Oh yeah, no, that's fine. So tell me, what religion were you originally? Like, did your parents follow some kind of a religion, or?
Well, they're still Baptist.
Oh, they're Baptist?
Yeah.
Interesting. Did they shove it down your throat? Or are you, you don't really believe it anymore, you said, right?
Yeah, not really.
Okay. How long have you been on the outside of religion?
Well, like a couple of years.
Couple of years. Okay. I don't know how much you want to mention, but I understand you had surgery recently. Is that right?
Yeah, brain surgery.
Yeah, brain surgery. Well, I'm
DBS.
glad. What is it?
Deep brain stimulation.
Deep brain stimulation?
Yeah, it's when they plug wires in your brain.
Right. Hook wires into your brain? Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure I can speak for everybody watching when I say that we're really glad you made it through that. Really. That is some intense shit right there.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, I appreciate you coming on. And actually, was there anything you wanted to talk about specifically? Just want to chit chat? Do you have any questions for me or anything?
Have you looked into the Hamilton Bar thing?
Say again, have I looked at what?
The Anne Hamilton Bar thing.
I don't think so, actually. Would you want to type it out in voice 4 so I can be sure to take a look at it? Voice text 4 channel? No, Siri. I did not say Siri. God, frickin' every time. Wait a minute. That thing's breaking on me. Oh, no, I haven't. I've intended to. You said Anne Hamilton Biner cult?
It's Burn.
Right. I think you mentioned them to me, right?
Yeah.
I have not looked yet. I do intend to, actually, but let me just pull that up real quick. It's I'm just pulling it up right now. It's an Australian New Age group, right?
Yeah.
Huh. That's fascinating. I'm gonna have to do some research into that. But
Yeah. There's a 48 hours.
like a 48 hours
Yes.
episode or whatever on it.
Yeah.
That's pretty fascinating. I'm gonna have to take a look. But anyway, well, I appreciate you coming on, and hopefully you make a recovery, right?
All right.
All right, we'll talk to you next time.
All right. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's pretty intense. I can't even imagine. Just glad he's doing well. But I was really hoping to speak with Tiny Tofi, but he doesn't appear to be here. And neither does the fish. So next in line was King. Hey,
Yay!
how's it going?
I'm good.
Good.
This was kind of unexpected.
Was it? Well, I had you on the list. So tell me, what religion were you originally? Are you still religious, or?
I was originally a Catholic.
Okay. You were Catholic, huh? Are you, like, I guess your parents are still Catholic, or
Yeah.
do they kind of shove it down your throat? Do you still have to deal with all that, or are they?
No, they don't. They don't really talk.
They
They
don't
don't talk about it a lot or anything.
Oh, well, that's not so bad then, right?
But like, I have to continue keeping the act because I kind of feel bad about it.
Really? You feel bad about, like, not believing, I guess?
Yeah, like. But the thing is, like, I also kind of think like I don't want to like. I don't mean to give any offense, but
Sure.
I feel like my friend sent me like a little rant, and she started going on a little tangent about like gods and deities,
Sure.
and she says she's watched the Jehovah's Witnesses videos, like and she says thing about Jehovah and stuff, they say he wants them to go to paradise, paradise in big quotations.
Sure.
And she says, if he wants them to go to paradise, why do they have rules?
Right.
And it kind of confused me for a while, because I'm kind of like, well, it's a religion, they have to have some rules, but
So what she's saying is, I guess, if he wanted them in paradise, he'd just put them in paradise, right? And wouldn't have to make it all like a struggle to get in. Why doesn't he just put them there? Is that
yeah, kind of like that.
okay? Actually, I can kind of see the point there. Here's my question about it. When Adam and Eve sinned, why didn't God just prevent them from reproducing anymore and create a new batch of people and that who were perfect and who hadn't sinned? That way he would have saved hundreds of billions of lives. I think 100 billion people have lived since the beginning of time. He saved hundreds of billions of lives of misery and pain and sadness and torture and death. But instead of just creating a new batch of people, the dude just let this happen. Just kind of blows my mind. If he's all powerful, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So you said you were Catholic originally, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And how old are you now? Are you still like with your parents, or
I'm like with.
what was that? I'm sorry, I didn't hear
I'm just with like my mom.
you. Okay,
But
interesting.
my dad lives pretty close.
So you said you're kind of like, what, you feel bad, right? You said you feel bad
Yeah.
for not believing.
Because the thing is, like, when I first like getting,
Wait, you're breaking up
Like
a little
when
bit
I
there. What
like
was that again?
when I first started to like fade away from like Catholicism,
Yeah.
it's just that my mom used to go out.
Wait, I lost you again. You said when you started to fade away from Catholicism, your mom what?
My mom used to like go out a lot, like with her
Okay.
friends and stuff.
Right.
And the thing is, my grandpa like prayed and like asked God something to bring her back home safe, and it just made me kind of feel bad, feel a bit
Right.
guilty.
Interesting. So, do you think when you get a little bit older, say in 10 years, do you think you're still going to be going to the church with your mom anyways, just so she doesn't get the idea that you're
I think I might have her
you think you might have what?
and I think I might be able to tell her like later on.
Sure. Yeah. I can understand like hiding it and
They're
not wanting to come out.
they're not like Jesus freaks like some of my uncles and aunts stuff. They're not like the kind of person that would have a cross in like every single room and every inch of their house,
Right.
like some of my aunts and uncles do. And it just still makes me feel bad.
Sure. Yeah, I can understand that. But with time, things will get a little bit easier. Once you get out on your own and you don't have to worry so much about what they think, things will be a little bit better. So, anyway, I appreciate you coming on, and maybe we'll talk again, okay? Yeah, that's pretty interesting. It's kind of a shame that people have to like stay in the closet the way they do. Some people handle it better than others. For some people, it's just an endless hell to hide who you are. And for others, they really just don't mind at all. One thing that I find interesting about people being in the closet about being gay or trans or anything like that, it feels to me like if somebody is so just if they need to express the fact that they're gay or trans or whatever so much and damn the social consequences, it seems to me that people would realize that it's not just a lifestyle choice they're making at that point. I mean, it seems like people would realize that it's a legitimate thing that you can't choose, you can't decide, because obviously the easier choice would be to be straight or to just be the gender that you were born as or the sex that you were born as. That would be the easier decision on them. But the fact that they choose to go through the process of reassignment surgery anyways, or they choose to tell their families anyways that they're gay, should be a sign that it isn't a choice that they can possibly make. Okay, you know what? Go ahead and give me some questions, actually. You with me?
Okie dokie. Let's see. So the first thing I have here is question according communion. So I'm guessing they're talking about communion. Is drinking someone's blood and eating flesh a weird idea to hold on to?
Yes. God, is it weird? I would say yes. It's so weird. Although, I don't know, like different religions consider the whole communion thing metaphorical, I guess, or they consider it to be a metaphor. I think Catholicism is one of the only few religions who take it literally and say, no, it is actually Jesus' flesh and blood. I mean, at this point in time, in this day and age, it's honestly difficult to claim that anymore, though. There's so many claims you just cannot push through anymore because of modern science. But anyway, yeah, it's weird.
Okay. Now, the next one I have here is my dad was in Christian Science and later in life had to get surgery for health problems he didn't deal with when he was a kid. What do you think of that?
I think it's a goddamn shame that there are people out there suffering as a result of this garbage. There really aren't that many Christian scientists, though. Actually, let me just take a quick look here. Hang on. I don't remember. I did a video on them. I don't remember what their population was, roughly. But I know it was pretty low. Okay, yeah, here we go.
25,000 or something.
It looks like
That's crazy.
it was 400,000 people in 2008 in the world. Yeah, roughly that. But that's pretty small with 7.5 million Jehovah's Witnesses, 14 million Mormons, 200,000 Quakers. So twice as many Christian scientists as there are Quakers. But it's a shame. I'm just glad to see their numbers dwindling. So, yeah.
Okay, the next question is, so at my college, Jehovah's Witnesses show up once a month to set up a table in the lobby. Why do they do this if they do not believe in higher education?
Interesting. So why do they set up a table at a college if they don't believe in higher education? Is that
I believe that's what they're asking, yes.
Okay. They don't believe in their members getting a higher education. If somebody already has a higher education, then it's fine. Like the Kingdom Hall that I went to when I was younger, they had it had a dentist there. He had a PhD and he made dentures for people and stuff. Like he's really, really good at what he did, and he made a ton of money, and all that money got funneled into the organization. So they're not opposed to people necessarily having a higher education, but they don't want their members getting one because they're afraid that they're going to leave. So, in fact, if they have a higher education when they join, it means they'll have more money to give out. So they're reaching for the people from the colleges, but they don't want their current members to go so they don't lose them. That's the bottom line.
Okie dokie. And would Telltale ever do a video about the Branch Davidian
Branch
in Waco,
Davidians.
Texas?
Yes. In fact, I know somebody who lives in Waco and actually, or near Waco. And yeah, he has a lot to say about them. He's been trying to get me to do the Branch Davidians for like a really long time. That's a really fascinating story. But yeah, I am going to. And by the way, how many questions do we have total at this moment?
I've got a bunch of silly ones and a couple more interesting ones.
Okay, let's just hold on to them for a second. I'm going to get to another person. Next one in line was Death by Giggle, I believe. D's. There it is, Death by Giggle. Hey, can you hear me?
Yep.
How's it going?
Good. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. So we haven't talked on the podcast before, right?
Nope.
So tell me, what religion were you originally? Are you still religious?
I originally was Methodist, and
I'm sorry, you're a little bit quiet. Can you hear me?
Sorry. Yeah, I can hear you.
There we go.
Originally, I was Methodist Christian, and like agnostic atheist kind of thing.
Really? Okay. Yeah, Methodist is generally pretty tame, relaxed. Is that your experience with it too, or?
I mean, at my old church, well, I went to two churches, and my original one, it was just mostly like older people. And since I was like little at the time, like no older than 10, I just kind of like went there and was like, I mean, I get food, so this is fun,
Sure.
but it wasn't really like devout moments. And then when I got confirmed, it definitely got a lot more intense.
Really? Okay.
Like
So
with requirements.
wait, I didn't know. Do Methodists have confirmation?
Yeah, we have confirmation. It depends on like what church you go to. Some people do it at like 12, others at like 16, and they try and emphasize like it's your own choice, which is good, but it really isn't, because it is kind of like, oh, well, since you're in middle school now, we're gonna have confirmation class and we're gonna go on this trip, and if you don't do it, you're gonna be weird, and
Sure.
you're not gonna go on this fun trip with everyone, and it's like, yeah, don't really have a choice in this. And also, you had to speak in front of the entire congregation about your spiritual journey. And at the time, it was after I had gone through a really rough situation in my elementary school,
Sure.
and I felt like really ostracized. And so the one time I actually like was like, oh, this is what religion's supposed to do, make you feel better. I felt just alone and like isolated and not happy. So it was really like trying, and I just struggled so much to like understand it.
Sure.
That was really when I figured out like, yeah, this isn't for me.
So how old were you roughly about that time, you think?
At least 13 or 12, yeah.
Fascinating.
And
So
I feel like
go ahead.
that's like the worst way to find out. Like, you're standing in front of a congregation reading what you've written down, and you're just like, oh, I don't believe what I'm supposed to be here
Yeah.
for. And I
So
feel like, sorry, go ahead.
What had you written? Like, what was it that you were supposed to be telling them or whatever? Was it like just explaining your faith and why you believe and things like that, or?
It was, you had requirements. It was almost like writing a paper. Like, you had to talk about like 3 reasons why you think God is real, or like why you believe, or stuff like that.
Sure.
And you had to tie it in with the Bible verse. And I talked about how I was bullied, and I tied it in with some cheesy Bible verse, and I was just like, it felt disingenuous. And ever since then, I just felt like I was telling lies whenever I like talked about religion, and it really just made me really uncomfortable. And then when I went on an outreach to this youth Methodist conference, it was a really like great experience to be with all those people, and they were all having so much fun. But I came back and I felt like I didn't feel like myself. It was like I had been essentially brainwashed, and it was
Sure.
really strange.
Yeah,
And I know
know
that's
the
not their
feeling.
intent, but it was a weird experience.
Yeah, I know the feeling. Like, even Jehovah's Witnesses don't quote unquote intend to brainwash anybody. I mean, they don't set out to do that exactly. That's just kind of the natural byproduct of what they do, right? So intent or not, the end result sucks, right?
Yeah.
So I can understand where you're coming from. But yeah, I appreciate you coming on and talking about that. That's really interesting.
Cool. Thanks.
Yep, maybe we'll talk again.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Yeah, like I said, generally I view Methodist as fairly tame, but there are extremist aspects to basically every denomination. I don't think I would call Methodist a cult exactly. I wouldn't, but yeah, there are some cult-like traits to just about everything. So let's see. Give me 1 second here. Let's see. Oh, hey, look at that. Tiny Tofi is in now. You there?
Yeah.
Hey, what's up?
Nothing much. Just made spaghetti.
Sweet. Not a huge fan of spaghetti personally, but I'm happy for you. Anyway. So, you're religious, aren't you?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. I personally really don't like the debate format at all, so I hope it's okay if I just ask you some questions about your religion. Is that good with you?
Sure.
Okay. So tell me about your beliefs in general. Just give me like a brief overview, like a flyover, 5 bullet points kind of thing about what you believe.
Yeah, I think the Bible is true.
Mhm.
I think Jesus died for the sins of humanity. And I don't think there is any worldview apart from that system that actually sufficiently explains any of the knowledge that we have, or any of the meaning within our lives.
Okay, so is it fair to say that you are saying there isn't a worldview outside of the Bible's worldview that provides a sense of meaning?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Why do you think that? Like, what brings you to that conclusion?
So I don't know that it's necessarily a conclusion. I think what I'm offering is that I don't think that there is any such worldview apart from, well, let me put it this way. I don't think there's any possibility of multiple worldviews being true. Like I think it would be absurd to suggest that multiple different mutually exclusive worldviews could be true.
Sure.
The very fact of believing one worldview is just to suggest the impossibility or to categorically deny ones that contradict it.
For example, you can't both have Christianity be true and have atheism be the case at the same time, right? Is that
right?
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
And precisely because a lot of this has to do with epistemology, like a lot of this has to do with the way in which we know things. And part of that is, if Christianity is true, then the way in which we know things is developed around Christian theism. Like the atheism is not sufficient to explain the way in which we know things.
Okay, and what is the way in which we know things that Christianity does explain, but atheism does not? Like, how is it? What is it? What is different about Christianity that it explains the way we know things, but a lack of a belief in a God doesn't?
So, on the Christian system, we ground knowledge in revelation. That is, we have this information from an omnipotent, omniscient, infallible source. Whereas on the atheistic system, well, at least on an atheistic system, it seems that one is forced to, at some point, make some sort of arbitrary assumption about what types of things we can know or about the nature of humans. For example, I think empiricists assume that we can just trust our empirical faculties,
Okay,
and then move from there.
The way I see that is there are a few basic assumptions that we all have to accept. And those basic assumptions would be we all live in a shared reality. We can test test things, and they will be reliable enough that we can make predictions off of those tests. Those are kind of the base assumptions that we have. And when somebody denies the first one, which is we live in a shared reality, you get a solipsist, for example, right? Or if somebody denies the second one, you get this or that. Go away, kitty, shoo. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So you're saying that if we don't accept the Bible, then we can't accept the one basic assumption, which is we can't test things and make predictions off of those tests. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I don't think it makes sense to say that we can have any sort of knowledge apart from presupposing the truth of the Bible.
Interesting. Well, like I said, I presuppose at least those two things. I presuppose that we live in a shared reality and that we can make predictions off of tests that we run. As far as I know, those are the only presuppositions that I make about anything. Why is it that I need the Bible to presuppose those two things? Did those two things come from the Bible, or?
It's not that you need the Bible in order to justify those two things. It's that the Bible you would have to presuppose the truth of the Bible. In other words, you would just have to presuppose the Christian worldview. The point being that there's not being offered any sort of coherent system of justification that could justify those presuppositions apart from the Christian system.
Okay, why do I need to justify those two presuppositions, why can't I just accept them and move on? Because they seem to be the most reliable way to get to truth. I mean, the reason I presuppose them is because I can I can make predictions off of the tests that I run, and they will come true. Why do I need to presuppose anything outside of that? Why do I need to justify that presupposition?
Yes. So to the question of why you would need to justify it is just because that's just the game of philosophy. Is why should we believe anything you say? Like
Sure.
you're obligated to give some sort of sufficient reason
Sure.
for believing something.
Well, it seems like if I can make a prediction and that prediction will come true, that I seem to have a reliable method, right? So that would be its justification.
Yeah, but how would you go about verifying a prediction, for example? How would you go about knowing that your prediction comes true without already presupposing the very thing in question, namely that you exist or that your senses are reliable, that you can test things? How would you go about demonstrating that without already just assuming that?
Yeah, I have at least those two presuppositions that I can. One of them isn't even really a presupposition because I base I trust the process because it gives results. But the first one I will accept as a presupposition, which is that we live in a shared reality. And I don't think that there's really any way to get out of that. It is a presupposition for everybody on this planet, and either you accept it or you don't. But yeah,
Sure, but
go on.
But I think the question is, what worldview actually allows us to justify that belief? Like on what? Like it's not on any worldview. It's not, it's not the world where the unicorn runs the earth. That
Sure.
that actually explains how it's even possible for us to know something like that. That's what's being asked: is how are you even aware that it's possible for you to know of your own existence? Because if you don't know how, it would seem you have a fundamental problem at the outset of your worldview.
That's very interesting. Obviously, I disagree with you. However, I will let you have the last word there because I have to move on. But maybe we can do it again, okay?
Sure.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. Thanks for coming, and there is so much to talk about there. But yeah, there was actually possibly one more. Wait a minute. One more person here. Hang on. Yeah, there was one more person. It was God, this cat is miffed. He wants my attention. Something fierce. Okay, I was gonna talk to the Austrian guy.
Hello?
Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good, how are you?
Not too bad. So I haven't had you on here before, have I?
You have not.
So what religion were you originally?
I was originally a Reformed Baptist, but I later left.
Okay, so were your parents Baptist? Is that what it was?
My father originally grew up in a Catholic home, left that, became a Reformed Baptist after a colleague at work brought him to the religion, and then we were raised that way with his wife.
Okay. Was it like kind of oppressive, or did they shove it down your throat, or no? Was it
Well,
pretty tame?
I guess it really depends, because in my eyes, I'd say it wasn't repressive, but my mother was much stricter than my father was, I think, which is kind of ironic because
Right.
she ended up being a fake herself. But I think that it was very much a thing. I'm sorry, I'm tired. My mind's not working.
Oh, no
I did
problem, man. I understand.
So my head's kind of weird.
I understand. So you said
I'd
your mom
say
was kind of fake? She didn't really believe it, or it turns out?
she was fake. She was definitely fake. She would go to church. We had the church, and every week you go, and then you'd have the whole group, and she'd act all mightier than thou, and then come home and completely switch, which
Right.
ended up being a big problem in the church.
So how would she switch? Like what kind of things would flip around, do you think?
Well, she'd flip around from being all like, oh, I'm this holier than thou, as I said before. I'm this like holier than thou woman, and I follow the Bible, and I do all this stuff. Well, in the background, she couldn't even keep herself to one guy.
Sure.
So it was kind of a thing of you're acting like you're this really religious person because you pray every now and then, and
Sure.
you believe God's real, and then you go home and you treat your family like garbage.
Right. I understand. I had a similar situation with my dad. He was Jehovah's Witness and he believed it all and was at the meetings and all that junk. But when we got home, he was a completely different person. So,
Wow.
Yeah, I'm with you
Sad
there.
to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, that's how it goes sometimes,
Yeah.
It's just we can take solace in the fact that we're out of that situation now, right?
Right. Thankfully, my dad is very, very okay with me telling him, I'm not religious. I don't want to go to church. I don't believe in any of that stuff. I'm not atheist, but I also don't believe in what you believe in.
Very interesting. So he's kind of backed away from the whole thing now then.
Right. He's very much he's very much he's a good parent. I'm glad that I have him.
Good. That's good to hear. I'm so glad to hear that because, not everybody's so lucky to have a good parent like that.
Right.
So I'm pretty happy for you there. And by the way, I actually had an interesting question for you, and it's not going to make a whole lot of sense. Just bear with me, okay? Because I'm planning on doing some interviews with like some bigger YouTubers and things, and so I'm going to try out this question on you and see what you think of it, okay?
Okay.
Would you consider yourself more of a hunter or a gatherer?
Hunter or gatherer? I mean, if we're talking like a follower versus leader, I definitely say I'm a gatherer.
Really? Interesting. Why do you say that?
I can lead if someone's younger than me, or if the way that works, they are much more of a follower than me, I'll take the leadership role. Or if they just don't want to take the leadership role, but I prefer to be a follower. I don't like to have to make those decisions, and it makes me anxious.
Okay. I had another question actually for you because when I was interviewing for this job, they asked me this question. Of course, I'm in software engineering, but we'll see what your thoughts are on this question.
Okay.
Do you know why manhole covers are round?
Why are manhole covers round?
Yeah. Microsoft used to ask this question of their engineers when they were hiring them.
Well, if I had to guess, I'd say it's easier to open it.
Okay. It's actually because the round cover cannot fall down the hole of the same size. Yeah, kind of an interesting little fact there. But anyway, I appreciate you coming on and answering my stupid questions.
Thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
I really
for
enjoyed
sure.
Your videos.
All right, thank you. Thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time. Okay, do you have some questions for me, Infinity?
I do. I have a last few to ask. Okay, so why is 666 the number of the beast?
Oh, it's kind of interesting that in the Bible there are a lot of there's a lot of stuff surrounding numbers. Like 7 and 3 are quote unquote holy numbers. They're good numbers. The Trinity and all this other stuff, right? 7 days in the week and blah blah blah. 6 is known as just the evil number. It actually lists it as the mark of the beast, 666 in Revelation, I think. And I actually have a tattoo of the number 666. I'm sure a lot of you have probably already seen it, but yeah. So there you go. There's your answer. It says it in the Bible. That's why.
All right. What is the most damaging part of religion to individuals and to society?
The most damaging part of religion to individuals and to society. I would say religion in general. I would say both to individuals and to, well, all right, I'll say to individuals, the most damaging part is the waste of time and energy that they spend on this stuff. And to society, the willingness to accept claims without evidence. That is my biggest concern. That is in general, but more specifically, I'd say I would say religion is most dangerous in the fact that it breeds extremism. There's a lot of extremism out there, and eventually you're going to get extremist religions like Jehovah's Witnesses and even different Islamic sects and cults and things like that. So that would be my answer to that.
All right. Why do Jehovah's Witnesses believe that blood donations is eating blood when there is no ingestion involved?
You've got me. They love to take Bible verses and twist them and morph them to say what they want them to say. And the reason I think that they wanted that specific thing is because they want their members to be different from the rest of society. Now, as far as I know, the blood teaching has been around for like a really long time. Hang on, let me look real quick. How long have Jehovah's Witnesses blood? No, I already know the answer to that one. I may not be able to find it quickly, but
I've got another question that kind of relates into that one.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you think that the Jehovah's Witnesses leaders really believe the stuff that they say?
Yes, I do. And I'll tell you why in just a second. As far as the blood transfusions thing goes, they just believe that. I mean, this was probably come up with in the 30s or 40s. That would be my guess. I don't know. I'd have to research it further. But blood transfusion wasn't really that big at the time. Whenever blood transfusion came out is when it really started to become a problem. But they've always run this propaganda war against blood transfusions. Like they'll say, oh, how many people died from infected blood that had diseases that they didn't scan for and all this garbage. When they're dismissing the fact that more people die from not having a blood transfusion than die from infected blood or tainted blood or something like that. Like they're just completely full of it. And as far as the leaders go, I kind of side with Lloyd Evans or the John Cedars channel on this in saying that I really think they do believe their own BS. I mean, to a certain extent, they know that they're just making shit up, but I really think that they're delusional to the point that they believe their own garbage, that they believe that they are God's arbiters on earth. So, yeah.
And do you agree with forcing a kid to get a blood transfer or whatever, but the government forcing them, whether or not the parents agree, like making the kid a child of the state or something, a ward of the state?
That's a really
taking the child away to have the procedure?
That's a hard decision because do we go with freedom of religion or do we go with saving somebody's life? I will go with saving somebody's life every time. Yes, we should force people to take medical treatments like Christian Scientists. If they just pray over their kid and their kid dies, they should be put in jail. That is just outrageous that happens. And it's the same with Jehovah's Witnesses. If they just pray over the kid instead of giving him a blood transfusion, they should go to jail.
Okay, I just got a couple more. So,
okay.
Someone asked if your niece is still dating a Jehovah's Witness.
No, I think she's moved on to a new boy. She's in like middle school, so, but he's not a Jehovah's Witness now. So that's good. That's good. That's a step in the right direction.
Shunning you?
She is still shunning me at this moment. But at this point, it may not even be shunning me. Now it may just be like, I don't know, just embarrassment or just hatred now, which is such a shame because I was close to her, but that's what religion does.
Okay. Are you ever going to make a video on Quiverful?
Quiverful, yeah. I do need to do that. That's the religion that the Duggars are. If you guys don't know the Duggars, those are the people that had like 19 kids or something like that, and they had the show 19 Kids and Counting. So yeah, eventually.
I just got 3 more quick ones.
Okay.
So, was the reason for getting a 666 tattoo to show that you won't let the fear of the devil or hell affect you anymore?
Yeah, that's kind of why I got it. It actually says 666, and it says cursed under it, and I just got it because I felt like I was cursed at the time. My life was going really badly, and I'd just gotten disfellowshipped and things, and so yeah. But I like it. I'm so glad I got it now.
All right. And what is your favorite flavor of milk? Chocolate, strawberry, banana, regular? What?
Ew. No, I don't even really like milk that much. White milk, I guess.
Okay, and then the last question is Telltale a dominant or submissive personality?
Personality?
Mhm.
I don't know. I guess dominant, but it's not really on that spectrum. I would consider myself a leader, I guess. And leaders they have to have a mix of both dominance and submissiveness. They need to be able to work together in a team well with people. They need to be able to manage people, and they need just a hint of dominance to gather people together, right? And put people where they need to go and break bad news and things like that. So a little bit of both. I wouldn't even put myself on that spectrum, honestly, with personality. So.
All right, that's everything.
All right. Well, I appreciate you guys coming. We'll talk to you next time. Oh, and two more I want to make 2 announcements real fast, okay? Number 1, I am reducing the frequency of this podcast to every Sunday. Instead of Sunday and Thursday. Also, I'm going to be changing the time, I think, to be a little bit earlier so that I can get some European people in here, because it's like 3 a.m. for them when I do this usually. So I'll put the announcement all over social media when the time comes. It's probably going to be around 5 or 6 p.m. Eastern time, so 4 or 5 hours earlier than it has been. We'll see. And also, DM me if you want to get a hold of me. I respond to all DMs at the moment. So anyway, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching, guys.